I had the chance to use some great and not so great gear in 2025. Today, I'm going to review 10 essential items and decide if I'll be using them again next year. Hey guys, Samuel Allred here. Welcome back to the Persistence Outdoors podcast. Now that most of the big game hunting seasons are over, you may find yourself sorting through gear and putting it away. Whenever you're doing this, it's a good chance to think about what worked well, what didn't work well, and even what gear you didn't use at all. If you pay attention and take some notes, you can start to fine-tune your packing list and prepare for the next season. This will help you lighten your load in the field, stay organized, and prevent you from forgetting an issue and making the same mistake twice. I've been going through this process with my gear. So in today's episode, I'm going to review 10 gear items and determine whether I'll keep them or replace them in the new year. To make this episode useful for you, I've specifically chosen 10 common gear items that you may need or be interested in upgrading. And so for each item, you'll get a mini review that can help you make buying decisions and also just help you get a sense of what qualities you're actually looking for in your gear. If there's something you're particularly interested in, feel free to look at the episode chapters and skip ahead, or you can just come along for the ride. The items I'll be reviewing today are the Crispi Nevada boots, the FHF Gear Bino Harness, Yeti coolers, the Halo Bolt battery pack, the Black Diamond Storm 450 headlamp, the Rab Electron Pro down jacket, a random tripod I got from Target, more on that later, Marywool base layers, a Camel brand rain jacket, and the Marmot Sawtooth 15 sleeping bag. So a bunch of different items that I use often or are very important parts of my kit, and these reviews may help you out if you're looking for similar gear. All right, so the first item that I want to review are the Crispi Nevada boots. These are 8-inch tall leather hunting boots. They have a thick rubber rand and they are Gore-Tex lined. And so all of these things make them super durable and waterproof. The Crispi Nevadas are some of the most comfortable boots I've ever worn out of the box. Even with the normal width last, maybe the medium width last, they are wide enough in the toe box that my toes don't feel like they're being crunched. And I have pretty wide, flat feet, but with the Crispi Nevadas, they felt pretty comfortable the first time I tried them on. And as I've worn them more and more, they've stayed just as comfortable. So the Crispi Nevadas have been incredible. I use them on most of my serious hunts or whenever it is wet. Sometimes I will use an older pair of boots that I have on a warmer weather hunt or sometime when I'm trying to go light and fast, but the Crispi Nevadas are my workhorse. So I love these boots because they are completely waterproof. The leather offers some significant water resistance, especially when you treat it with a waterproofing cream or wax. And then the Gore-Tex lining is really the last line of defense, and it keeps your feet dry most of the time. If your feet get wet, it will be from water coming in over the top of the boot, which is unlikely at 8 inches, or from your feet sweating. So they're incredibly waterproof, and that is a huge benefit of these boots. They're also very durable, like I said, with that thick leather and the rubber rand, and also a Vibram outsole. They are just built to last. And they can actually be resold, which is a huge benefit if you are interested in keeping these boots for a very long time. Now, some drawbacks are that they are pretty heavy and they are pretty expensive. I bought mine for about $350 on sale. that is a lot to pay for boots, especially when you can get other comfy pairs of boots for a lot less. I think, though, that if you use these for 3 or 4 seasons, overall, likely you will save money in the long run. Now, while these boots are very comfortable, they are a little bit stiff and inflexible. And I've realized that I like a more minimalist style shoe. So the overbuilt, stiff sort of ankle support and shank type boots are not my jam anymore. And so I will likely move to a more flexible shoe in the future. That being said, overall, I like the Crispy Nevadas. I'm going to wear them out. And then once they can't go any further, I will transition to a lighter, more flexible boot. But I might still look at the Crispy brand because I think they have a lot to offer. Item number 2 is the FHF Bino Harness. And FHF stands for Fish, Hunt, Fight. It's a great made in the USA company. One of the things that I really like about this Bino harness is that it is durable and modular. And so it is very useful, and I know it's going to last. It actually has one of the best bear spray attachments that I have ever used. And so it's this little sleeve for the bear spray. It's held in by a piece of elastic cord, and it has a little fabric tab that goes over the safety tab on the bear spray. And what you can do is carry it right below your Bino harness, and it's horizontal to the Bino harness, horizontal to the ground. And if a bear were to charge you, you don't even have to pull the bear spray out of the Bino harness. You can just flick that tab off and immediately spray while holding the bear spray right at your chest. So you always have the bear spray pointed out, and then you flick off that tab and you can spray right there. And it's the fastest, easiest way I've seen to use bear spray. And it makes me feel much more confident when I'm in the woods. In the past, I would bring bear spray, but I would also have a gun because honestly, I didn't feel like I would always be able to draw my bear spray quick enough. And I wanted to have that gun as backup, or I had practiced drawing that more. But with this, it feels very fast and I feel much more confident. So the design, the modular design, being able to add things like that bear spray holster or a rangefinder pouch is really useful, and it makes it really handy. Another thing I like about Bino harnesses in general is that your binoculars don't get fogged up. In the past, I use a elastic sort of harness, and my binoculars were exposed to the elements. They would also bounce around a lot when I was walking, and that got super annoying. So having your binoculars in an enclosed pouch makes a big difference. Now, some things that I don't love about the Fish, Hunt, Fight Bino harness are that, first of all, it gets really sweaty. Because of those thick, durable materials, it's not as breathable under there. And so often I'll be walking around and just get a big sweaty patch on my chest, which is a little bit hot and uncomfortable. And I often wish that there was better breathability in there. There is mesh on the back of it, but it doesn't create that much airflow. And then finally, the fit for me, I'm not a big person, and the Bino harness rides kind of low on me, and there's not a great way to adjust it much higher. So I would love to be able to just make it ride higher on my chest. The third gear item I've got on my list is a Yeti cooler. So I recently received a Yeti Cooler 75 as a gift. It's awesome. If you don't know, Yeti coolers, actually, their internal capacity is a little bit smaller than the number that's advertised. So a Yeti 75 is actually 72 quarts inside. It's not a big difference, but it's nice to know if you're comparing coolers. I used it on my deer hunt. It wasn't quite big enough to fit an entire bone-in deer and a decently large buck, but it was helpful. And then as I was processing the deer and later on, I put some meat in there and, it kept it cool and performed exactly like you would expect a Yeti to perform. Now, Yetis are great. And after using one, I have to acknowledge that, it keeps ice for a long time and it keeps things cool. I think they are still overpriced though. I think you are paying a lot of money for the brand name. And so if you wanted something that gives you similar performance, but for less money, you might look at an Arctic cooler, RTIC, or a Blue cooler, and you could likely get just as good performance for much less money. Also, the Yeti cooler, the 75, is pretty heavy, and it's just on the edge of being a little bit too much to be able to handle as one person, and it's definitely too much if you load it up with meat. So you want to keep that in mind when you're thinking about the capacity of cooler that you might want. At some point, it's just going to be so heavy that it's going to be a pain to haul around. So my overall review of the Yeti so far is just, I'm going to keep the one I've got and I'm going to use it, of course. But if you are going to buy a new cooler, I would recommend you only get a Yeti if you can find it at a steep discount or secondhand. And you may be able to get away with other overbuilt coolers that are not quite as high performing as Yeti, but still keep your ice cold for, 5 days. And likely that is going to be enough. All right, gear item number 4 is the Halo Bolt battery pack. So this spring I was bear hunting with a buddy and we had stayed the night and we woke up the next day and his truck had died. And we only had the one truck. So his truck had died and there weren't any other hunters around. And he comes up to me kind of sheepishly and he says, well, my truck died. I think we just need to roll it out to the road and then hopefully someone will drive by and then we can jump it and we'll go from there. And I had in my kit of stuff, I had a battery pack that has jumper cables. And this thing is so awesome. It can jumpstart a car multiple times. It can also charge your phone. It can take just a normal outlet plug. And so anything you need to charge or jump can be started with this battery pack. Super helpful. He didn't know I had this battery pack though. And so I wanted to just lead him on for 5 minutes and not tell him that I had it, but I couldn't do it to him. So after he told me his plan, I kind of just smiled at him and told him I had a battery pack. And he was so relieved. So I went over and tried to jump his truck. Well, I didn't know how to use it correctly, so I had to consult the directions, do it in the right order. But once I figured it out, it was super simple, jumped his truck right away, and we were able to drive out of there. So the battery pack is awesome because when you're hunting, you may not be around other hunters. Often that's our goal, right? So if you're by yourself, it doesn't help to have jumper cables if you have no other car to jump your car with, right? So having the battery pack is such a benefit, and I love this one. It's a little over $100 on Amazon. It is completely worth it, and I highly recommend it. Gear item number 5 has been a little bit more problematic, and that is my Black Diamond Storm 450 headlamp. So overall, I really like this headlamp. It is quite bright. It has a nice, comfortable design. The controls are easy to use, and you've got a red light. You've even got some other colors of light like blue and green. And then you've got just your normal white LED light. And when I'm using it, it's great. However, when I put it in my pack, it always seems to turn on. And I haven't found a way to keep it from not getting pressed somehow and turning on. So it just burns through batteries. And at any time, it might be on in my pack. And that means when I really need it, it will be very dim. I'll have to change the batteries, and that can be a pain, especially at night. Not to mention just using so many batteries. So that has been really annoying. And if it weren't for that, I would really love the headlamp. Another thing that happened to it is that it cracked. And I don't know how I cracked it. I don't remember dropping it on anything hard. Maybe it was just up against something in my pack and it cracked. I'm not really sure, but it did crack and it seemed less durable than I expected. So the headlamp has kind of underperformed in those ways in the long term. I have had it for maybe 4 or 5 years now. And usually, again, when I'm using it, it's fantastic. It's just if it's going to burn through batteries and not be completely durable, that is a little bit frustrating. So I definitely need something that doesn't randomly turn on all the time and maybe something a little bit more durable. And I think that while I'm at it, if I'm going to spend the money to buy a new headlamp, I will likely buy an even brighter one just because I can. The 450 lumens has been enough, I think, but every time I'm tracking an animal in the dark and looking for blood, which happened this season, I was helping a friend recover a bull that he had shot. Every time that I'm looking for blood in the dark, I think, I wish this was a little bit brighter, and it definitely can't hurt. So I will likely get something that's even brighter, even if it costs a little bit more money. All right, let's take a quick pause. And I want to ask, if you enjoy this podcast, if you've listened this far, please take a moment to follow the show and leave a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen on. Following the show and leaving reviews and comments will help the show reach more people and help them get outside and into hunting, which is what Persistence Outdoors is all about. So to everybody who does follow the show and support the podcast, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I want you to know that you are helping other people learn more about hunting just by supporting the podcast. So thank you once again, and let's get back into our topic for today. My 6th gear item is the Rab Electron Pro down jacket. This down jacket is incredible. It has 6.3 ounces of 800 fill power European goose down. It is incredibly warm. It also has a hydrophobic coating on the down, so it holds up in wet weather. And it has a 20 denier Pertex shell, which makes it pretty durable and weather resistant. I love this jacket because it has a serious amount of insulation and I get cold very easily, but it also isn't that heavy and it packs down small because of that 800 fill power down. Now, besides just having a high fill power, it also has a great fit. And this is one thing I've noticed with many down products is that you could have a very warm or very high fill power down, but if it's drafty and loose and doesn't fit well, it's likely going to be cold because air is flowing through your jacket or your sleeping bag or whatever it is. So it has kind of a close fit and it makes it so that it traps my warm air very well. It also makes one of the best pillows I have ever used. I have this small bag that's kind of like a small pillowcase. I got it with a sheet set for a queen size bed. And I stuff my jacket into this bag, tie the strings, and use it as a pillow. And it is one of the most comfortable pillows I've ever used. And it is a great way to get good sleep without having the extra bulk and weight of a camping pillow. So it's been incredible. I love it. It is a high-end product in every way. The one gripe I have with it are the cuffs are kind of weird. They are tapered, and I think they're meant so that you can pull on ski gloves easily over your cuffs. The thing is, while I'm hunting, I'm rarely wearing gloves because I'm trying to be ready to pull a trigger. And I don't love the way the cuffs are tapered down. I kind of wish they were just a normal cuff that you find on other types of jackets. But it's not a huge deal. I don't notice it all of the time. I think if my arms were a little bit longer, maybe they wouldn't slide up as far on my hands and it wouldn't be an issue at all. If you're in the market for a warm down jacket, not just a down sweater or something you'll wear in mild weather or even while being active, if you're looking for something that you can wear while you're glassing and then also layer under a rain jacket, maybe you're looking at the Stone Glacier Grumman, I would encourage you to consider the Rab down jacket as well, because this thing has just been wonderful. It's performed well. It's lightweight. It has great fill power, and you're going to be toasty warm in many different scenarios. If you want to learn more about down and how to compare down jackets, go check out the episode called Deciphering Down. I did a deep dive on fill power and how it's tested and the fill weight, all of that. So everything you need to know is in that episode, and it will help you when you're buying a down jacket or even a sleeping bag. Okay, gear item number 7 is a random tripod I bought at Target. And if anything, this is kind of an anti-review because honestly, I bought this tripod a long time ago. I was using it for something else, for setting a camera on. It couldn't have been more than $35. It's mostly plastic. It's not that lightweight. And there's really nothing remarkable about it. However, I have used this for about 2 seasons now to put a spotting scope on, and I've used it to successfully glass animals. I've found bears with it. I've found elk with it, mule deer, all sorts of animals. Looking through my spotting scope on this cheap, janky tripod. And so all of that to say, basically, you don't need to spend $150 to $300 on a tripod if you don't want to. You will look through online catalogs and search for a tripod, and immediately you'll find these options that are, $200 to $500. And sure, they would be nice. Definitely having that carbon fiber, it would make it a lot less heavy. And the pan heads and all sorts of things could be incredible. So I'm not saying don't get one if that's what you want and you can afford it. But if you're looking for something, you don't have to be suckered in to one of those really expensive tripods. You could go to Target and get a cheap camera tripod, and there will be a short learning curve. But once you get it down, you can be pretty effective with it, and you don't need to break the bank. So for my tripod personally, it's fine. It's not really high on my list to replace, although I would love to try something better in the future. Gear item number 8 is my Marywool base layer shirt. So Marywool is a brand that I mostly see on Amazon. It's supposed to be 100% merino wool. And I have a shirt that is 250 gram weight merino wool. It is very comfortable. It is pretty warm, and I love it. It's very inexpensive for merino wool, and you're not getting the markup of a big brand name like Smartwool. I love that it's 100% merino, that it is comfy, that it doesn't smell, that it keeps me warm even when I'm sweaty or a little bit wet. And I really haven't had any issues with it, which seems kind of surprising just considering how affordable it is. So if you want a great base layer, you should definitely go to Amazon and check out the Marywool line of products. They sell all sorts of different base layers and t-shirts and maybe even other layers like hoodies and things like that. And you really don't need to go to a big hunting brand to get your wool products when this Marywool company has everything you need for very reasonable prices. Now, this 250 weight shirt has lasted longer than I kind of expected it would. It seems a little bit soft and fragile just because merino wool isn't that durable in the first place, but it's lasted quite a long time. I wear it on almost every cold weather hike or hunt. And I think in the new year, I'm going to get some base layer bottoms as well. One of my least impressive pieces of gear is my rain jacket. It is a Camel brand rain jacket. I think it's mostly sold on Amazon. And in many ways, it's perfectly fine. It does repel rain. The zipper works. It's big enough that I can layer some clothing under it. It's black, so it's a fine color for hunting. Not amazing. I would rather something a little bit more medium toned, but it's just fine and it does repel rain. However, when it comes to hiking and moving and kind of having any sort of advanced feature, it's lacking. So when I'm looking for a rain jacket in the future, I would really like something that has venting in the rain jacket. So pit zips or some other zippers that you can open up so that while you are hiking, you can dump some heat and moisture. It would be nice if it were a breathable material, something synthetic with breathable capabilities. However, like I explained in my rain jacket episode a while back, I don't think any waterproof barrier is truly breathable, especially when you're active and creating moisture on the inside. So having that venting, I think, would be a huge benefit. Another thing that I want in a rain jacket in the future is a hood that fits all the way over my down jacket. I have this nice big down jacket, but even with the hydrophobic down, I do worry about getting it wet. So the next rain jacket that I get is going to have a big hood that goes over my down jacket hood. And it might just mean I need to size up or get a rain jacket that has a deeper hood. My current rain jacket is kind of a shallow hood, and it also rests the whole weight of the jacket on your head, which is very uncomfortable. It kind of makes your neck tired and tense. And so just finding something that fits better over my down jacket is going to be a top priority. Another issue with my current rain jacket is that it's heavy. It's something like 22 ounces or more, and there are better rain jackets out there that are half that weight. If I got a 2.5 layer rain jacket, I could get something in the 10 ounce range. And then there's a 3 layer rain jacket like the Patagonia Torrent Shell, which is about 14 ounces. And so either of those would be really nice because often I just have my rain jacket in my backpack in case it rains. But that means currently that I'm just carrying around an extra, 1.5 pounds all the time. And I could cut that pretty much in half with a better quality rain jacket. Now, one thing that my current rain jacket has going for it is that it's inexpensive. And once again, it does shed water. So it has gone with me on many hunts. It's kept me dry on many hunts. And for the mere price of, $45, that has been enough. It's just now that I know that there are better rain jackets out there and that I have something of a need to cover my down jacket, I've thought about it a lot. And I think that is high on my list to replace in 2026. All right, the final item on my list is my down sleeping bag. And the model I have is a Marmot Sawtooth 15. Now, it's advertised as a 15, indicating a limit of 15 degrees. The actual comfort rating on the sleeping bag is 27 degrees, and I definitely feel it. I am constantly cold, and so I am much more comfortable in this bag around, freezing than I am much below freezing, down to 15 degrees. But it is still very useful. I'm not doing a ton of super cold weather camping, and when paired with a good sleeping pad this can be a very warm and comfortable bag. So some of the things I really like about the Marmot Sawtooth 15 are the comfy fit, the hydrophobic down, and the affordability. The comfy fit is a huge one. Some sleeping bags are very narrow, and so when you get in them, you feel like you're in a straitjacket and it's hard to move at all. I tend to be a side sleeper, and so in some of those narrow bags, I just feel very restricted and it's hard to get a good night's sleep. Also, there is some room in the shoulders so you can get your arm out to unzip your bag if you want. Again, in some of those narrow bags, you put your arms in and then you can hardly get them out to undo the zipper and get out of your bag. And it's fine. I understand why they make those narrow bags to save weight and also be more efficient in keeping you warm. But the extra room in the Marmot Sawtooth is appreciated. Now, the other thing I like about the Sawtooth is the hydrophobic down. Just like with my down jacket, having that hydrophobic down just gives you a little bit of extra confidence that you're not going to ruin your sleeping bag by getting it a little bit wet. And you can even use a hydrophobic down sleeping bag to dry out. So if you get wet and you can create enough body heat, you can climb into a sleeping bag like that, stay warm, dry out, and it's not going to completely damage your sleeping bag. I live and hunt in a relatively wet area. I'm still in the inland Northwest, and I come from the Pacific Northwest and go over there pretty often. So having the hydrophobic down is, once again, just a huge peace of mind. And then I like that the Marmot Sawtooth 15 is pretty affordable. It comes in under $250 at REI. So many people could afford that, and likely you can use it for 5 to 10 years and it's going to serve you really well. And that just makes a big difference when you can find other down sleeping bags out there for $400 to $600. And I'm just thinking, who can even buy this? And even if you could buy it, is it really worth spending that much money to save 6 ounces, let's say? So the affordability is a big plus. Now, there are some drawbacks. So with that generous, comfy fit, there is some draftiness, just meaning because there's extra room, it's easier for cold air to get in there and flow along your body and make you cold. So you do have to be careful about the draftiness, and you need to seal the hood and the collar pretty well. And unfortunately, the design of that hood and collar isn't that great. I almost wonder if they designed it for someone with like a giant head, because even when I cinched it down all the way, it still felt like there was some room where air could get in. So I end up often sleeping with something over my face to block out cold air, or just with a little bit extra clothing around my neck or a jacket or something. And that does the trick, but the design is not the best. And I haven't quite figured out how to seal out the air just using the sleeping bag. So that's a little bit frustrating, especially when you're in very cold weather. But once again, it's a trade-off. It's kind of a comfort thing, right? You could have a very narrow bag and a tight collar and maybe a very tiny hole for your face to be in. And maybe that just wouldn't be as comfortable. So it is a bit of a trade-off, but I wish it was a little bit narrower, especially around the neck. And then finally, with this sleeping bag, it's got an interesting zipper design. Instead of having one full-length zipper, it has 2 half-length zippers. So there's one on the right and one on the left. And it's kind of nice for camping when you're not in super cold weather, because you might want to open up the sleeping bag and it makes it a little bit more versatile for maybe weekend trips in the shoulder seasons, like the fall when it's not going to be super cold. But having those zippers only go halfway down is a little bit annoying, and I wish they went further when I'm trying to get in and out of the bag. Also, if I were trying to save weight, I would just get rid of one of those zippers. So if I were trying to find a very light sleeping bag, I might be okay with having a half-length zipper and only having one. But instead, you've got two zippers and then also a zipper at the bottom to expand the toe box. And I could just do without those extra zippers and save a little bit of weight. So in my opinion, overall, the Marmot Sawtooth 15 is a great bag. I am going to use it for a long time. It's definitely not something that I feel like I need to replace anytime soon. They made some design choices with it that maybe are a little bit questionable, and maybe just depending on the person, you may like it or you may not. For me, the design features don't do much for me to make it a better bag, but the warmth overall and the hydrophobic down and the great price point all make it a very versatile and useful bag that I can recommend to others. All right, guys. Well, those are my 10 gear items. I hope those mini reviews were helpful for you. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email at persistenceoutdoors2022@gmail.com, leave a comment, or shoot me a message on the Persistence Outdoors Instagram. The new year is just around the corner, and I'm excited for everything that 2026 has to offer. Hopefully you've had some time to celebrate, and I want to take this chance to say Happy New Year. With that, I will wrap this up. Have a great week, and I will catch you on the next one.